Hey, so you may have seen from my last video, so not a video plug, I was building a VORON 2x4 3D printer. I want to get more in-depth about it since I didn't cover some parts and since I wanted to talk more about it. So let's get started. I printed out all the parts I needed, which took a few weeks, and I started building the printer. Here, I'm starting with the bed. One side of the bed was sticky, so it could basically glue onto the metal part of the bed. I made sure to do a motion from the inside to the outside so there wouldn't be any air bubbles. I used the gift card to help sweep it out, and I did it in increments. After, I made sure the magnetic plate would be able to fit into the bed's area. I then started carving out arch-like shapes so the future screws I was going to put in to connect the bed and frame could connect. I started to stick the heating pad onto the underside of the magnetic plate using the same method of how I was sticking onto the bed area. After, I put red RTX silicone to make sure that the heating pad was stable and so it wouldn't fall off and mess up the whole 3D printer. I put some T-nuts into the slots into the frame, which is very difficult since they always not fit inside or sometimes they pop out, and it was just very difficult. The T-nuts were put in so I could finish the bottom part of the frame and so I can attach rollers onto it. I then kept on working onto the base, of where I had to align more T-nuts and then screw them in. This was like the support of the 3D printer. Then put the bottom idler motors onto the bottom corners of the 3D printer. I had to align more T-nuts to screw the motors onto the frame tightly. I then put 4 other sets of motors next to the other motors. Inside the first motor's belt, through that, and I connected them both together by that, since it would be spinning the idler with its teeth. I then built the other idlers with the other frames, structures, and 3D printed parts. I screwed on the 4 angry idlers, which is what I like to call it because of its eyebrows, with more T-nuts and screws at the top of the inside of the frame. I also soldered heat sets into the 3D printed parts that needed them. These were for the screws that needed a good grip into the 3D printed parts. I put this 4-railed frame contraption, which would be the main unit for the 3D printer head. I went back into the house to finish off some other 3D printed parts that needed to be connected with other parts, and I screwed in more parts that needed to be screwed into the main movement contraption. I added the 4-railed framed movable contraption and connected it to the main structural frame. I then started putting in the belts which connect every idler to move the main movable part. This was for the Z movement. I started working on the back of the head of the printer and then connected it onto the middle of the movable contraption. I then started putting even more belts to connect the head to the frame. This would be able to make it move forward, backwards, right, left, and any other direction. I also built this X and Y sensor part which detects the limits of the area's bed, so the 3D printer won't print outside the actual limits. When I started trying to attach the fans to the modded part that I printed out made by Bad New, some screws didn't fit and I got really confused. So I started freaking out and I decided to go back to the Fusion 360 file of the modded head part. And I figured out that I didn't print out a part, which is where my footage stopped since I still needed to print that part out and to connect that head together along with other parts. I also made this quick edit to show off the 3D printer too. Here is also a scene of all the mess-ups of the broken, unstable, or non-usable parts I printed out. And that's it. I hope you check out my other videos. Maybe give a subscribe and like if you want. And goodbye.